Sometimes, a single act of kindness over a scraped knee can change the life of a billionaire and open his heart to a world he never knew existed. Ethan Royce sat by the giant glass window of his private jet, looking out at the clouds but not really seeing them. His 6-year-old daughter, Lily, sat next to him, quietly drawing on her tablet. The flight attendant offered him a drink, but he waved her off without a word. His mind wasn't on drinks or flights. It hadn't been for years. Since the day his wife died, Ethan had changed. Once known for being sharp, witty, and charming, now he was known for being cold, silent, and distant. Business still ran perfectly. He had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. His tech companies were global giants. But inside, Ethan felt like a ghost. Lily was all he had left of his wife, Emily. She had Emily's eyes big round, full of wonder, but they didn't sparkle the way Emily's used to. They were quieter now, unsure. Ethan noticed. Sometimes, but he didn't know what to do. He wasn't good with emotions, so he gave her everything money could buy. Expensive toys, the best tutors, a beautiful room filled with everything a child could want, even paid extra for private therapy. Even though he never joined the sessions himself, this day, however, was a bit different. The jet had to stop at a small-town airport due to unexpected technical checks. They would be grounded for a few hours. The pilot told Ethan they could stay in the jet or go into the small town nearby. Ethan looked at Lily, who had grown restless. After the long flight and decided they could go out for a quick lunch, the driver took them into town and parked near a quiet street with a few shops and a small diner. It was a humble-looking place, painted in faded white and red, with an old-fashioned sign that read Sally's Diner. Ethan almost turned around, uncomfortable with how ordinary everything felt. But Lily tugged at his hand, her eyes curious. She pointed at a kitten sitting near the entrance of the diner. Ethan nodded, and they stepped inside. The diner was small, with checkered floors and cozy booths. A few locals were seated, chatting over coffee. It smelled like fresh pancakes and bacon. Nothing fancy, but somehow warm. A woman behind the counter looked up as the doorbell jingled. She was in her early 30s, wearing a simple apron and her hair tied back. Her eyes were tired, but kind. She gave them a polite smile and grabbed 2 menus. "Hi there, just the 2 of you?" she asked. Ethan nodded stiffly. He rarely talked to strangers anymore. "Right this way," she said, leading them to a booth by the window. She handed Lily a coloring sheet and crayons. "Here you go, sweetheart." Lily smiled softly. "Thank you." The woman smiled. "Jenny, I'll be right back with some water." Ethan sat awkward in this simple world. He looked around. No assistants, no bodyguards, no one rushing to please him, just regular people. Jenny returned and took their order. Ethan asked for black coffee. Lily asked for pancakes with strawberries. Jenny chatted gently with Lily, asking about her favorite cartoons and if she liked school. Lily answered with short words at first, but gradually warmed up. Jenny's voice was soft and sweet. Ethan didn't say much, just watched. Halfway through the meal, Ethan's phone buzzed. A business call from Tokyo. He excused himself and stepped outside to take it. Always the call was filled with numbers, deadlines, and market updates. But while he was busy talking, something happened inside the diner that he didn't see. Lily had finished eating and noticed the kitten outside the window. Quietly, she slid out of the booth and went out the side door. Jenny, busy refilling coffee at another table, didn't notice at first. But then she heard a short scream and the sound of someone falling. Without hesitation, Jenny rushed outside. There by the side of the diner, Lily was sitting on the pavement, holding her knee and crying. A tiny scrape ran down her skin already. Red. The kitten had disappeared. Jenny knelt down beside her. "Oh no, honey, are you okay?" she asked softly. Lily cried, not too loud, but clearly in pain. Jenny didn't panic. She gently checked the scrape. "Just a scratch," she whispered, "but I know it stings." She blew gently on the scrape, the way her own mother used to when she was little. Then she took a napkin from her apron, wet it with bottled water, and carefully dabbed the dirt away. Ethan stepped around the corner just then, still on the phone, and stopped. The words from Tokyo continued in his ear, but he didn't hear them. All he saw was Jenny, kneeling on the ground, holding Lily's leg, gently blowing on the wound. Lily had stopped crying. Her eyes were fixed on Jenny, full of trust. Full of comfort. Ethan couldn't move. He felt like his heart had stopped. Something warm rose in his chest. Not desire, not fear. Something else. Something long forgotten. His daughter. His daughter wasn't looking at him. She was looking at this. Waitress? And for the first time, in a very long time, she looked safe. Loved. He ended the call without a word and walked over. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice low. "I should have been watching her." Jenny looked up and gave him a kind smile. "She's okay. Just a little scrape." Kids are tougher than we think. Ethan reached for Lily, but she didn't move right away. She kept looking at Jenny, who smiled and stood up. "I'll get some ice for her," she said, and disappeared. Inside, Ethan lifted Lily and held her close. She laid her head on his shoulder, but didn't say much. He sat with her on the bench outside the diner, feeling her tiny heart beating against his chest. Jenny came back with a small ice pack wrapped in a towel. "Here, this will help with the swelling." "Thank you," Ethan said, meeting her eyes. Jenny nodded, then crouched beside Lily again. "You're very brave," she said with a soft laugh. "And next time, maybe wave to the kitty instead of chasing it, huh?" Lily giggled, and Ethan felt something break open inside him. That laugh, it had been so long since he'd heard it. They went back inside after a while, finished the meal, and Ethan paid. Jenny handed Lily a small sticker before they left, a smiley face with a bandage on it. As they walked back to the car, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about what he saw. That moment, that one simple act of kindness, had touched something deep inside him. He had all the money in the world, but in that moment it had meant nothing. Jenny didn't know who he was. She didn't try to impress him. She just helped a child. His child. Back in the car, Ethan watched Lily fall asleep with the sticker still in her hand. Her hair fell over her face and she looked peaceful. He leaned back and stared out of the window again. But this time, his mind wasn't on business. It was on Jenny, on the way she had looked at Lily, and how Lily had looked back at her. He hadn't seen that kind of love since Emily died. That night, as the jet took off again, Ethan sat beside Lily in silence. Inside his heart, something had changed. A small part of him, locked away for years, had come awake. And it all started with a scraped knee and a waitress who didn't walk away. After the incident at the diner, when Lily scraped her knee and Jenny, the waitress, gently blew on it to ease the pain, Ethan's world started to change in ways he never expected. What seemed like a small moment filled with simple kindness opened the door to something much bigger, a connection that slowly began to break down the walls around Ethan's heart. The day after the scrape, Ethan found himself thinking about Jenny more than he should. At first, he tried to dismiss it as just a passing thought. After all, she was just a waitress in a small town. And he was a billionaire, a man from a world so different it sometimes felt like another planet. But Jenny wasn't like the people Ethan usually met. There was a warmth in her eyes, a genuine kindness that made him want to know more. Lily, still a little upset from her fall, kept asking about Jenny. "Daddy, will Jenny be here again?" she asked, clutching her knee carefully. Ethan smiled and promised she would. He wanted to keep that promise, not just for Lily, but for himself too. The next morning, Ethan decided to return to the diner, not out of obligation, but because he wanted to see Jenny again. When he arrived, the place was quiet, filled with the smell of coffee and fresh pastries. Jenny was there, busy serving customers, her hair tied back. A tired but determined look on her face. Ethan walked up to her and thanked her again for helping Lily the day before. Jenny smiled politely but didn't expect anything more. Ethan, however, felt a need to say more. He asked how she was doing, what life was like in the small town, and if she had any family. Jenny shared that she was a single mother working hard to provide for her young son, Sam, who had special needs. Listening to her story, Ethan felt a mixture of admiration and sadness. He had never known what it meant to struggle like that. His life had always been one of luxury and ease, though loneliness often shadowed him. He realized how little he had understood about the lives of people outside his world. Over the next few days, Ethan started spending more time in the diner. He brought books for Lily and Sam, and sometimes he stayed just to talk with Jenny. They shared stories about their dreams, their fears, and the challenges they faced. Jenny spoke honestly about the difficulties of raising a child with special needs while working multiple jobs. Ethan opened up about losing his wife and how that loss had left a hole in his life. It was during these conversations that Ethan began to see Jenny not just as a waitress or a stranger, but as a strong, compassionate woman who was fighting her own battles. He admired how she managed to stay hopeful despite everything. And Jenny, in turn, saw in Ethan a man who was more than his money, someone who cared deeply but had been hurt before. Lily, who was usually shy around strangers, warmed up quickly to Jenny and her son. The children began playing together, laughing and sharing toys. For Lily, Jenny became a kind of guardian angel, someone who understood her and cared for her in a way Ethan sometimes struggled to do because of his busy life. One afternoon, Ethan watched Jenny as she comforted Sam. During a difficult moment, Sam had a meltdown triggered by the noise and confusion in the diner, and Jenny's calm presence helped him regain control. Ethan was amazed at her patience and love. It made him reflect on his own parenting, and he vowed to be more present. For Lily, as the weeks went by, Ethan and Jenny's bond grew stronger. They supported each other in small ways. Ethan helped with medical appointments for Sam, and Jenny encouraged Ethan to take time off work to be with Lily. It was a friendship built on respect, trust, and shared experience. But they're growing. Closeness wasn't without challenges. Jenny sometimes hesitated to accept help, fearing she might lose her independence or become a charity case. Ethan understood these fears and reassured her that he wasn't offering charity, just friendship and support. One day, a crisis brought them even closer. Sam's therapy session went poorly, and Jenny felt overwhelmed and exhausted. Ethan dropped everything to be there for her and Sam, showing up at the clinic with a warm smile and open arms. That day, Jenny realized that Ethan wasn't just a man of wealth, but someone who genuinely cared about her family. Ethan's life began to change in other ways too. He started visiting the small town more often, finding peace in its quiet streets and friendly faces. He took Lily on little adventures, walks in the park, visits to the library, and simple dinners at the diner where Jenny worked. These moments reminded him of what truly mattered. At work, Ethan found himself distracted by thoughts of Jenny and the life he was building with her and his daughter. But instead of frustration, he felt motivation, a new reason to succeed, not for himself alone, but for the family he was creating. Slowly, Ethan started to open up about his feelings. He shared with Jenny how meeting her had changed him, how he had been lonely and lost before, but now felt hope. Jenny listened quietly, touched by his honesty. One evening, after dinner at the diner, Ethan walked Jenny and Sam to their car. Under the soft glow of the streetlights, he told Jenny that he wanted to be there for her and her son, not as a wealthy stranger, but as someone who cared deeply. Jenny smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't known in years. Their relationship wasn't perfect. There were moments of doubt and fear, times when Jenny worried about the differences between their worlds. Ethan struggled to balance his demanding career with the new responsibilities of family life. But they faced these challenges together. Learning to trust and support one another, Lily often asked questions about Jenny and Sam. She was curious and excited about the new family they were becoming. Ethan answered with patience, wanting his daughter to understand that love wasn't about money or status, but about kindness and connection. One afternoon, Ethan surprised Jenny by inviting her and the children to his penthouse. Jenny was nervous, but agreed, wanting to see the world Ethan lived in. When they arrived, Jenny was amazed by the luxury, but also felt a bit out of place. Ethan reassured her, telling her that his home was their home too. That night, as Lily and Sam fell asleep, Ethan and Jenny talked about the future. They dreamed of a life where their families were united, where love and support would guide them through whatever came next. The scraped knee that had started. It all was more than just a small injury. It was a symbol of healing and new beginnings. It reminded Ethan that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can open doors to the biggest changes in this part of the story. Ethan's life was transformed by friendship, understanding, and the courage to open his heart. He learned that true strength comes not from wealth or power, but from compassion and connection. Jenny, too, found hope and support in Ethan's friendship. Together, they began to build a future filled with love and promise. And Lily, the little girl whose scraped knee had brought them all together, smiled knowing that her family was growing stronger every day. Ethan couldn't get Jenny out of his mind. Ever since that moment outside the diner, when he saw her blowing gently on Lily's scraped knee, something deep inside him had started to shift. It was strange and unexpected. He had met thousands of people in his life, executives, celebrities, testers, investors, but no one had affected him the way that small-town Waitress had. There was no makeup, no designer dress, no high heels, just kindness, honesty, and a quiet strength. And somehow, that had touched him more than anything else ever had. Back in New York, life returned to its usual pace, fast, controlled, and distant. Ethan held meetings, signed documents, approved new products, and made important decisions. He spoke to hundreds of people, but every conversation felt empty. Night, when he sat in his enormous living room, surrounded by silence and luxury. His mind wandered back to that little diner. He could still see Jenny's face as she knelt beside Lily, the way she spoke so gently, and the way Lily had laughed. That moment was more powerful than all the boardrooms he had ever sat in. A few days later, Ethan made a decision. He called his assistant and told her to clear his schedule for one day. He said he was taking Lily on a short trip. No one questioned him. He was the boss. Called the pilot and requested the jet. This time, he didn't bring any staff. Just him and Lily. When Lily heard they were going back to the place with the pancakes and the kitten, her face lit up. That smile made Ethan feel like he had done something right for the first time in a long time. They arrived at the same small airport and took a car into town. Ethan was nervous, something he hadn't felt in years. What if Jenny wasn't there? What if she didn't remember them? What if she thought he was strange for coming back? But as they stepped inside the diner, his heart settled. There she was, Jenny pouring coffee into a customer's mug and laughing at something someone had said. She looked just the same, maybe a little more tired, but just as warm. She looked up and smiled as they walked in. Well, well, she said, walking over. Look who's back. Ethan tried to play it cool, but his voice came out softer than he expected. We thought we'd try the pancakes again. Jenny looked at Lily and how's the knee? Lily proudly showed her a tiny scar. All better, Jenny chuckled. It's good to hear. You two can sit wherever you like. They sat at the same booth, and Jenny brought over 2 menus. She chatted with Lily while Ethan watched silently. He noticed the way she listened carefully to Lily's little stories about her, his favorite cartoons, and how she didn't interrupt or rush. It felt like she truly cared. And once again, Lily came. Alive in a way Ethan rarely saw. She laughed, made silly faces, and even drew a picture for Jenny while they waited for their food. After their meal, Ethan waited until Jenny had a short break, then gently asked if she had time to talk. She hesitated for a second but nodded. They stepped outside the diner, leaving Lily playing with crayons. Ethan didn't know exactly what to say at first. I just wanted to say thank you. Again, you were really kind to Lily that day. I don't think I ever properly thanked you. Jenny smiled. It's nothing. I've got a little one myself. Comes naturally, I guess. Ethan was surprised. You have a child? She nodded. Yeah, my son Sam. He's 9. It's autism. He's sweet but doesn't talk much. I work a lot of hours to keep things going. There was no pity in her voice, just calm honesty. Ethan felt a wave of respect wash over him. I don't know how you do it, he said quietly. She shrugged. You just do what you have to. Every mom I know does the same. Life's not easy, but we manage. Ethan found himself wanting to know more. Over the next hour, They talked about simple things: her work, her son, the town. Jenny told him how her husband had left when Sam was 3, unable to handle the stress. Since then, she had been working 2 jobs, juggling therapy appointments, and trying her best to keep life stable for her son. Her eyes were tired, but her voice remained strong. Ethan shared a little about himself too, not the business side, but the personal. He told her about losing his wife, about trying to raise Lily with help but without real connection. Annie didn't interrupt. She just listened, her expression gentle. Ethan realized it had been years since someone had listened to him like that, not for who he was as a billionaire, but as a human being. Lily came out to show Jenny another drawing, and they all laughed together. Ethan noticed how natural it felt, standing there like that, like he belonged in this quiet little town, instead of in the glass towers of New York. Over the next few weeks, Ethan found reasons to return again. Each time, he brought Lily. Sometimes they stayed for just a meal, sometimes they stayed longer. He met Sam during one of these visits, a shy boy with dark hair and curious eyes. He didn't talk, but he warmed up to Lily and the 2 children, began to play quietly together. Ethan and Jenny's friendship deepened slowly. There were no big romantic gestures, no dramatic moments, just long talks, shared laughter, and honest conversations. Ethan started opening up in ways he never had. He told Jenny about his guilt, how he felt like he had failed Lily by hiding behind work. Jenny never judged him. Instead, she told him that showing up now mattered more than the mistakes he'd made before. One evening, as the sun set over the small town, Ethan found himself walking beside Jenny down a quiet street. Lily and Sam were walking ahead, holding hands and laughing. Jenny looked tired but peaceful. "You know," Ethan said quietly, "you've changed my life." Jenny looked at him surprised. "Me?" He nodded. "You made me realize how cold and distant I've become, watching you with Lily. It reminded me what love looks like." Jenny looked away for a second, unsure how to respond. She had never expected anything from Ethan. She still didn't. To her, he was a kind man trying to be a better father. She didn't care about his wealth or his fame. "I'm just doing what anyone would do." She finally said. "No," Ethan replied. "Not everyone would do what you do." "You care? Really care? That's rare." There was silence between them for a while, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was quiet and full of something unspoken. Later that night, after Ethan and Lily returned to their hotel, Ethan stood by the window, looking out at the town lights. He wasn't sure what was happening, but he knew he didn't want it to end. He wasn't thinking about profits or projects. He was thinking about Jenny's tired smile, about Sam's gentle hands, Lily's laughter, about a life that felt warmer and more real than any boardroom or skyscraper. He started thinking about what it would mean to be part of something like that. Not as a billionaire, just as a man, a father, a friend, maybe something more. But he also knew their lives were very different. His world was built on money, power, and constant movement. Hers was built on survival, strength, and deep love. Could those 2 worlds ever fit together? That question stayed with him, even as he drifted off to sleep with Lily beside him, her tiny hand wrapped around his finger. The next morning, when they visited the diner again, Jenny gave Lily a small box of crayons she had saved for her. "For your next masterpiece," she said. Lily beamed. "Thank you, Jenny." Ethan watched the exchange, his heart full. He didn't know where this was going yet, but for the first time in a long time, he wanted to find out. It's not just for him, but for Lily, and somehow, deep down, he hoped Jenny might want to find out too. After the warm, gentle days in the small town, Ethan found himself wanting to stay longer each time. The simplicity of the place, the kindness of the people, and especially Jenny's quiet strength had touched something deep inside him. He was no longer the man who only lived for work and money. Now, he wanted to feel connected not just to his daughter Lily, but to the world outside his high-rise office and private jet. Jenny had become a steady presence in their lives. She was more than just a waitress at a small diner. She was a mother, fighting to give her son Sam the best life possible. a woman who carried burdens silently, and a friend who listened without judgment. Ethan admired her for this strength, though he rarely said it out loud. He felt a growing respect and something more, something he hadn't dared to feel for a long time. One afternoon, Ethan and Lily arrived at the diner to find Jenny sitting outside on the bench staring at the sky. Her usual energy seemed dimmer than before. When Ethan greeted her, she forced a smile but didn't get up. Lily ran ahead, playing with Sam in the nearby park. Ethan sat beside Jenny and waited.
Ow.
After a moment, she sighed deeply and finally spoke. "It's been tough lately," she said quietly. "Sam's therapy sessions have been challenging. The school isn't always understanding, and sometimes I feel like I'm failing him." Ethan looked at her, surprised by her honesty. He knew the struggles of business and fame, but the struggles Jenny faced felt raw and real in a way he hadn't experienced. "You're not failing," he said softly. "You're doing everything you can." Jenny shook her head. "Sometimes, it feels like no matter how hard I try, it's not enough. The bills pile up. I work double shifts, and yet, I worry about his future." Ethan's heart ached. He wanted to help, but he didn't know how. Money had never been an answer to the things that truly mattered. He thought about his own life, how his wealth had never been able to fill the emptiness. Left by losing his wife, he looked at Jenny and said, "Maybe we can find a way. I have resources, people, doctors, specialists. I want to help Sam." Jenny looked surprised, almost hesitant. "I don't want charity," she said quickly. "I want what's best for him, but I want to do it on my own." Ethan understood. "I'm not here to give charity," he said gently. "I want to be a friend, someone you can trust." The first time, Jenny smiled without hesitation. "Thank you, Ethan." In the following weeks, Ethan dedicated himself to helping Jenny and Sam. He arranged meetings with specialists who were experts in autism, connected Jenny with support groups and educational programs that could give Sam a better chance. Most importantly, he was there present and listening. One evening, after a long day of appointments and meetings, Ethan drove Jenny and Sam to a small music event in the town square. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. People were gathering, laughing, and dancing. For Sam, it was overwhelming. But with Jenny holding his hand and Ethan close by, he felt safe. Ethan watched Jenny closely, the way she soothed Sam when he got anxious, the way she smiled softly despite her exhaustion. It was clear how much love she poured into every moment, even when it broke her, as the night grew darker. Ethan found himself holding Lily's hand, feeling the warmth of family growing not just between him and his daughter, but now with Jenny and Sam as well. This was a life he hadn't thought possible before, a life filled with imperfect but genuine connections. At one point, Jenny pulled Ethan aside. "I want to thank you," she said quietly. "Not just for helping Sam, but for reminding me that I'm not alone." Ethan shook his head. "No, thank you. You've reminded me what's really important." Their eyes met, and in that moment words weren't necessary. Something unspoken passed between them. A promise of support, friendship, and maybe something. Deeper back in his hotel room that night, Ethan thought about how much his life had changed in just a few weeks. The sterile, lonely world of business no longer seemed like the only way. There was a new path ahead, one filled with love, challenges, and hope. He looked at a photo of Emily, and then at Lily sleeping peacefully. He knew the road wouldn't be easy. Healing took time. Building trust took courage. But for the first time in a long time, Ethan felt ready to face it all. The next morning, Ethan surprised Lily with a visit to the town's little library. It was small but cozy, filled with colorful books and storytime corners. Lily's eyes lit up as she explored the shelves. Jenny joined them and read a story to the children gathered around. Ethan watched as Lily and Sam listened, captivated by the simple magic of stories. That day, Ethan realized that happiness wasn't found in wealth or success alone. It was found in moments of kindness, of sharing, of being present. And it was found in people like Jenny and Sam, who, despite their struggles, showed incredible strength and love. As weeks passed, Ethan's visits to the town became more frequent. He and Jenny began to build a life together, not rushed or forced, but slowly, like a gentle river, carving its path through the land. There were obstacles, of course. Jenny worried about how different their worlds were. Ethan feared he might hurt Lily by changing too much. Every challenge was met with patience, understanding, and hope. One afternoon, as they walked home from the diner, Lily suddenly ran. A head stopped and turned to Ethan. "Daddy, can Jenny stay with us tonight?" she asked shyly. Ethan looked at Jenny, who smiled softly. "If it's okay with you," Ethan said. Jenny nodded, feeling a warmth she hadn't known in years. That night, as Jenny stayed in the guest room of Ethan's penthouse, she realized that life had changed. No longer was she just a waitress struggling. To keep her family afloat, she was part of something bigger, a family built on love, acceptance, and second chances. Ethan sat beside Lily's bed, watching her sleep. He felt a peace he hadn't felt in years. His heart was no longer closed off. It was open, ready to love again. And all of it had started with a scraped knee, gentle breath, and a simple act of kindness that changed everything. Time moved forward, and with each passing day, Ethan felt the changes growing stronger inside him. What had started as a chance meeting at a small diner had transformed into something deeper and more meaningful, a connection that was healing his heart and opening a new chapter in his life. It was no longer just about business or success. It was about family, love, and hope. Ethan had come a long way from the man who once believed that money could fix everything. He understood that true wealth came from relationships, the laughter of a child, the quiet moments of support, and the unspoken promises between two people who cared deeply for one another. Jenny had become an essential part of their lives. Her presence brought warmth to the cold rooms of Ethan's penthouse and a sense of home that had been missing for years. Lily adored her, and even Sam, who was shy and sometimes overwhelmed, felt safe and happy around Ethan and Lily. One day, Ethan decided to take a break from the city's chaos and planned a weekend retreat for all of them. He wanted to create memories, simple, joyful moments that would bind them closer as a family. They drove to a quiet cabin by a lake, surrounded by trees and the gentle sounds of nature. As they arrived, Lily jumped out of the car with excitement. Sam watched quietly, but smiled when Ethan offered to carry his backpack. Jenny's eyes shone with gratitude as she looked around the peaceful place. It was a world away from their daily struggles and worries. That weekend was filled with laughter and new experiences. They went fishing, picked wildflowers, and made s'mores by the campfire. Ethan watched Jenny gently helping Sam roast marshmallows, and he saw the love and patience she had for her son. It was beautiful and inspiring. In the evenings, Ethan and Jenny would sit quietly by the fire, talking about their hopes and fears. Ethan shared his dreams of being a better father to Lily and a man who could give love without fear. Jenny spoke about her struggles as a single mother and how hard it was to believe in a brighter future. Through these conversations, they grew closer. They realized that their pasts, with all their pain and loss, didn't have to define their future. Together, they could build something new, something real. Back in the city, life continued with its challenges, but Ethan faced them with a renewed spirit. He was no longer alone. Jenny and the children were his family now, and he was ready to stand by them through thick and thin. One evening, after a long day of work, Ethan returned home to find Jenny cooking dinner with Lily and Sam, helping set the table. The sight filled his heart with joy. It was a simple scene, but it meant everything to him. He joined them, and they shared a meal filled with laughter and stories. It was the kind of normalcy Ethan had craved for so long, as the weeks turned into months. Ethan and Jenny's relationship blossomed. They supported each other through good times and bad, celebrated small victories, and comforted one another. During moments of doubt, Ethan also took steps to ensure Sam received the best care possible. He hired specialists, arranged therapy sessions, made sure Jenny had time for herself, knowing how hard she worked every day. Lily, too, thrived. She blossomed in this new environment, surrounded by love and attention. Her smile grew brighter, and her confidence soared. One afternoon, Ethan surprised everyone by inviting Jenny and the children to his company's headquarters. He wanted them to meet his team and see the world he came from, not to show off, but to share a part of his life with them. Jenny was nervous but accepted the invitation. When they arrived, Ethan introduced them to his colleagues, many of whom had heard stories about the small-town waitress who had changed their boss's life. Lily ran around, excited to explore the big building, while Sam stayed close to Jenny. Ethan felt proud to see how far they had come together. During the tour, Ethan took Jenny aside and asked, "Would you consider moving here? Making this your home?" Jenny looked around and thought for a moment. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I love our town, our friends, and the life we've built. But I also want to be with you and Lily. Maybe we can find a way to make both work." Ethan smiled. "We will. Together." Their journey wasn't without obstacles. There were days when Jenny doubted if she could keep up with the demands of a new life. There were moments when Ethan struggled to balance work and family, but they never gave up. They leaned on each other, growing stronger through their shared challenges. One day, Ethan surprised Jenny by proposing to her not with a flashy ring or grand gesture, but with heartfelt words that came straight from his soul. He told her how much she had changed his life, how grateful he was for her love and strength, and how he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her and their children. Jenny, tears in her eyes, said yes. The wedding was a small, beautiful celebration in the town where it all began. Friends and neighbors gathered, sharing stories and laughter. Lily and Sam were at the center, their smiles brighter than ever. Ethan and Jenny stood together, not as a billionaire and a waitress, but as partners, equals, and a family. Years passed, and their lives continued to grow richer, not in money, but in love and connection. Ethan remained successful in business, but never forgot what truly mattered. Jenny thrived in her new role as wife and mother, supported by a man who had learned to love deeply and openly. Lily grew up knowing she was deeply loved by both her father and Jenny, who had become her second mother. Sam flourished with the support of his family and specialists, his shy nature slowly giving way to confidence and joy. Through all the ups and downs, the scraped knee that started it all remained a symbol of healing, kindness, and the power of small moments to change lives forever. Ethan often thought back to that day at the diner, the day he almost didn't stop. He knew that if he hadn't, he would have missed out on the most important thing life had given him, family, and that, more than anything else, was the greatest fortune of all.